All right, before we move on to Oklahoma, an open apology to Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins about last week before going into the Alabama game. An open apology that is much deserved to both of them from yours truly. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and we are back for a Tuesday episode of Locked On Gamecocks, and I appreciate you guys joining us and making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I've talked to you guys about this before. We got 3 college football games on tonight on Tuesday, October 15th. It's also payday. So maybe venture on down there to FanDuel. You guys have some fun. If you're already watching the games, why not? It's $5. With a $5 initial bet, you get $200 in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com today. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Now, let's get into the episode, and let's just get right to it. Something that I believe is necessary, warranted, and valid. An apology from me to Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins. Last week, I came on this very episode, or this very show, and I said, is it time to move on from Dowell Loggins? After the Ole Miss game, I was pissed. I was real upset about the game plan going into that. It had built up a little bit of frustration from what happened at the LSU game, some things that I just didn't understand, and to revisit those in my mind, where that came from was the second half against LSU, not being able to stick to the game plan that had worked for the first half just because you lost the North Sellers. And then also having a bye week. And this went out to both of them. Beamer and Loggins caught a lot of heat for this, not just from me, but from a lot of people. It felt like it was inexcusable to go into that Ole Miss game with a week off to prepare and to make the same mistakes that they did. It was frustrating. It was frustrating, and I was frustrated, and I was, like I said, I was pissed. So I made the comment. I said, is it time to move on from Dowell Loggins? Because of some of the play calls and the inconsistencies in the offense and just your general approach to what happened. So here I am on Tuesday, October 15th, apologizing. I don't know how the rest of the season is going to play out. I don't know if you're going to go back to what happened in the LSU game and the Ole Miss game. I don't know if it's going to rear its ugly head again in Oklahoma, or when you come back home to Williams-Brice against Vandy and Mizzou and whatever else. And I don't know what it's going to look like against Clemson or any of that other stuff. I do know that going into that Bama game, I, like a lot of people, did not feel like South Carolina was going to go into that game prepared. It felt like the whole fan base, like not the whole fan base, but I feel like a lot of the fan base was just very down. And the word I kept using is apathetic and just, like there's, like very little chance they're going to go into this game and come out with a victory. And you both coached your ass off. It was awesome. Maybe should have came away with a win. Probably should have came away with a win. Didn't lose because of the way that you coached at all. I didn't have any issues with the stuff you guys did. Not a single thing. Dowell Loggins, if you're listening, I know you are. You're probably not. But if this gets to you, I want you to hear this. What you did at the first drive of the second half of that game against Alabama was the best offensive drive and the most, to quote our man, drop your nuts moment, I think, of this coaching staff, maybe since Beamer's been there, like outside of the Tennessee and Clemson back-to-back. But the most drop your nuts moment saying, here's what we're going to do. And there wasn't a single person in that locker room that thought they were out of it or that thought they were going to get blown out. They never stopped believing. And that's a credit to the coaching staff, making sure everybody else was still bought in, even when some of us, like the fan base and me and media and whatever else, weren't. That's a credit to this team and what goes on in those 4 walls in the locker room. Wildly impressed with that. But Dowell Loggins specifically, the scheme that you came out with. First off, let's backtrack a little bit before the start of the third quarter. How about the fact that you come out and you throw the ball on the first 2 plays of the game? I don't know if we've seen that all season, right? You like Ashford. I'm sorry, not Ashford. Lenore Sellers starts the game off. I think he was 6 of 7, 62 yards. He's about as efficient as he could be. You bring in Ashford, I think, which feels to me at this point like it's a scripted, planned, and agreed upon thing, which is fine. Let him play. He deserves to play. I thought that the momentum you had on offense, the way that you got Lenore Sellers rolling, the way that you got the offense going against a defense that was, I think they were starting to feel themselves a little bit, and they had a lot to prove. And listen, there was a I'm trying to think of how to phrase this without getting myself in trouble with the source. A friend of mine that's close to me in this industry that filled me in on a little text thread between I think it was either offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators around the Power Four. And they watched Bama go into that game against Vanderbilt, and the exact response was after like the first drive was, "Oh my God, they didn't change a thing. They didn't change a thing." Like Kane Womack didn't change a thing with that defense in the first quarter or first half against South Carolina. South Carolina did. South Carolina made the adjustments. That's what you're supposed to do. At any level, that's what you're supposed to do. Sometimes it's really hard to do that and make sure that you're not, being stubborn or whatnot. I kind of thought that Dowell Loggins was the one that was being stubborn throughout the season, or at least an inability to change because of fear, like I said, stubbornness, or something in between. I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong. And he came out there, and like I said, he schemed and coached his ass off, and I thought it was great the way he came out there. But that third quarter drive, I think that's all of us that's it. What all of us want moving forward. You're down 14-12, you come out of the half, and you have a plan in place, and you say, you know what? We're going to go 16 plays, 83 yards, take almost 9 minutes off the clock. We're gonna borrow a little bit of what we saw last week from Vanderbilt, taking time off the clock, keeping that offense on the field, and now we're about to put these people in a very uncomfortable situation. And what they did was run the ball down their throats. Hold on one second. Why is this pause? Okay. 16 plays, 13 of the plays were runs. 13 of the plays were runs. You converted all 5 of the third downs you faced, including a 3rd and 15. That's a tremendous job, and a shout out to Lenore Sellers. But here's the thing that impressed me more than anything, and I think that a lot of South Carolina fans would agree with this. If you watch the tape from the Bama Vandy game, one of the things they struggled with, right? One of the things they struggled with was they could not stop the shovel pass. And on like 3rd and 4, when you're driving down near inside their 20-yard line in the red zone, you face a 3rd down, beautifully and geniusly, I think that's a word, you called a shovel pass, and it worked. And then you ran it. You continued to run it down the throats until you got to the end zone. That was a masterclass of coaching and scheming somebody up. And here's the other thing too. I know that South Carolina fans are tired of hearing this part, but you had that team in a position to win that game. And what happened was no fault, in my opinion, of the coaching staff. No fault of the coaching staff at all. There were no fake punts. It was nothing like the stuff from the week before. Like there wasn't like a fumble from the backup quarterback. It was no fault of the coaching staff's own. That they did not fumble. Multiple times or have the turnovers that Lenore Sellers did. And that's a freshman quarterback making freshman quarterback mistakes. We're going to get there. It's going to be okay. But here's the thing. Dowell Loggins and Shane Beamer, they deserve just such a standing ovation and a round of applause from everyone in here, and a tip of the cap and an apology from me and other people that have doubted them, because what they did in Tuscaloosa was one of the more impressive coaching jobs we've seen from this staff, maybe all season. Might have been the most impressive thing we've seen from them all season. I understand that what happened with Kentucky, but listen, Kentucky went on the road and beat them. The defense was suffocating. Clayton White continues to be just a star. This defense is so damn good. They are easily one of the best defenses in the conference. Like we said before the season even started, easily one of the best in the conferences. in the conference and probably the most overlooked in the entire country. But this offense that has struggled, and I brought up all the numbers before last week and the deep dive that I did, you ranked 10th or worse in 22 of 30 offensive categories. And all those were factual numbers. And that's not going to change overnight, right? I haven't gone back and looked at them this week. That's not going to change overnight. They got better. But what is going to change is like the only thing we could ask for as fans, as media, as whatever else covering this team is an adjustment to have been made. And you made an adjustment, and that's what mattered. So I apologize. I was wrong. It's going to happen a whole bunch, I'm sure. But when I am wrong, like an adult, you have to admit when you're wrong. And so that's my apology to Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins. And I hope both of you somehow hear it because you deserve it. And just a hell of a job, guys. Just a hell of a job going into last week. All right. That is all for the first part of the show. Let's get into some of the other stuff before we move on. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit more about the game. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Oklahoma matchup and the ability, I think, or the opportunity that's in front of them. For in front of South Carolina. And then also we're talking a little bit of basketball. It was media days today over in Birmingham. Nick Pringle, just continuing with the theme of South Carolina and Alabama and all that kind of stuff. Nick Pringle is over there representing the school and talking to the press and the media. So was Mop Harrison. It was a really fun start to what should be a really, really good basketball season. That's the men's side. On the women's side, the AP poll dropped. Number one in the country. There's not another team in the country that received a single vote at number one. It is South Carolina, and it is South Carolina only. It is South Carolina and Dawn Staley's world, and the rest of women's college basketball is just living in it. But we will get to that more a little bit later. Before we move on, I do want to talk to you about one other thing with our friends at Roy. You guys have heard me talk about them before. It's really, really cool. It's a way to get yourself involved in the NIL game. Let's recognize the Roy Player of the Week. You guys might not like it, but I'm going to say, I said last week I was going to give it to Nikki Manwari or why am I drawing Nick Harbor. Both of them had great games. I'm going to say this week I'm going to give it to Lenore Sellers. Lenore Sellers, I know he had a turnover or two, but the kid played his best game of the season, and it's only going to be even more motivation. Let's just keep this thing rolling. Listen, so far this season with Roy as the Player of the Week, we've pulled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Microdeposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to athletes that you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part is it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content that you paid for, you get your money back. This week, like I said, I'm going to give my money to Lenore Sellers. I just pitched $100. I'd love for you to join me. Even if $10 makes a difference, let's show Lenore Sellers the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. All you have to do, just listen carefully. All you have to do, download Roy, create an account, enter the referral code LOCKED ON. It's 2 separate words, LOCKED ON, and you're entered. If you're already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited, but download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return_on_you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. All right, we're going to change the game here in a second, and we are going to get back to talking some SEC football. Also, I'm going to bring up a question to you guys. You guys have been really great about this in the comments. And I've got a fun back and forth and an audience poll I want to talk about here in a second. But we will do that when we return. Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, we're Celsius powered up. I want to talk to you real quick. And you guys might not have seen this game, but I think a lot of people did. And just get your input on this because the NCAA has already weighed in on it, which is something they're like fast acting is not what they've ever been, right? So here's the thing. The NCAA saw Ohio State and Oregon. Let me backtrack. Oregon and Ohio State played on Saturday night. In that game, if you're watching it, Ohio State's driving towards the end of the game. There's like 10 seconds left. And on one of the last plays with 10 seconds left, Oregon runs a 12th player onto the field on purpose. Runs a 12th player onto the field, giving him an extra defensive back to guard, to defend, right? Obviously, you can only have 11 players on the field. Dan Lanning did it on purpose because, listen, here's the deal. You have an extra defender out there, and you at the most, you're going to get a 5-yard penalty, right? But you've got an extra defender on the field. And here's the one thing about the NCAA that is different than the NFL. Well, one of the many things that's different about the NCAA than the NFL. Once that penalty is called, the time doesn't go back on the clock. So people were like, "Oh man, what a smart checker or chestnut checkers move from Dan Lanning." Other people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way he did this on purpose." Monday morning, he confirms, "Yeah, that was on purpose. We ran somebody else out there." What of it? Brilliant. I mean, brilliant move. And the NCAA is already trying to change the ruling on that. Here's my couple of takes on this, okay? And I know it's about South Carolina, but just bear with me. One, yes, it is a brilliant move. He took advantage of the rule, and I love it. That's just an excellent job of coaching. He found the loophole, took advantage of it. They won the game. I don't think anyone's going to care about, like, you won the game. Smart move. So he is not under scrutiny or anything like that, but like they win the game. The NCAA and Steve Shaw, who's like the director of officials, whatever, has already said they're trying to figure out ways to rectify the situation. The refs handled it correctly, which was true. I mean, in a bad year for refs, they handled it correctly. But like, how do you fix the situation? I think the easiest thing is, all right, yeah, here's the solution. Put the time back on the clock. There you go. That's what the NFL does. You're doing everything in your power to make this thing as close to the NFL as possible. So there's a start, like in a way that makes sense. Just do that. Here's the ire that I have towards this decision and what happened. It took you all but 2 days for the NCAA to fix this. Like that's it. It took 2 days for you guys to be like, "Oh, you know what? That's a loophole. We should figure that out and fix it." How has it taken you more than 3 or 4 years to figure out how to fix the injury thing? Ole Miss, and I saw this, you guys saw it firsthand last week. They brought it up. People are finally starting to talk about it. Thank God. But against LSU, they had a injury in quotes, and they flashed this stat up on the screen. They said this is their 30th injury against P4 competition. That's not even including all the other games they played. It's their 30th injury stoppage against Power 4 opponents only. I was like, there's got to be a way to fix it. So my question to you guys, and I want to hear it in the comments and on social media and all that kind of stuff. What do you guys think the best solution is? And also, did you disagree with what Dan Lanning did? I think it's a great topic and just counterpoint type piece. And I would love to hear what you guys think. All right, here's something I think. South Carolina heads to Oklahoma. Should we wait till Friday to tell you the prediction? I'll give it to you now. You know what? I'll give it to you now because I'm in a great mood. South Carolina is beating Oklahoma this weekend. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. If you guys have watched Oklahoma play, there is nothing that this team does besides put on that logo that should scare anybody. Michael Hawkins Jr. has been the worst quarterback in the SEC. They are horrible offensively. They have still injuries everywhere, especially on offense. Here's the thing. You got to score points to win a ball game, right? Whatever the under is, I would take that for one. Two, I would say that this is such a huge opportunity and a Shane Beamer special, man. A Shane Beamer special to go, like, you think about this. you barely lose to Bama. You barely lose to LSU. Those are games that you were expected to lose. Beat Kentucky, even though you weren't expected to win that one. And this up and down feeling with the fan base that we have known the whole season, right? Oh my God, Old Dominion was awful. Bam, you beat Kentucky. Oh man, they were so close against this, and then they looked awful against Ole Miss. You're so close against Bama. Wouldn't it just be the most Shane Beamer thing ever to go out to Oklahoma where he used to coach and go get a win and go put on that same kind of masterclass he just put on in Tuscaloosa, but did it in Norman? Wouldn't that just be like the most Shane Beamer thing ever? I think so. We'll get into this matchup as the week goes on. I'm telling you, I brought this up with the LSU game. This is a game that favors South Carolina. They have better special teams, they have a better defense, and they have a better offense. You are better in all three phases of the game. Guys, you could also make the case that you have a better coaching staff or you have a better head coach. They're a 4-point underdog on the road in Norman. That's fine. I don't give a blank about that at all. That's just Vegas. But does it not on paper, these are the moments that Shane Beamer's like, yeah, I got that one. I got something for them on that one. Like, doubt all you want. Fine. Because here's one thing that is very, very evident from this team. I told you that Alabama game, there was some opportunities we had, win, lose, or draw. You had opportunities to get some confidence going into the next game. One of the things Shane Beamer said after that game, he said, you know what? When we were watching film, we knew with the way Alabama plays defense, there was going to be some opportunities for our receivers. And then he went out there and took advantage of them. Nick Harbor jump balls? We've been waiting on that all year. 2 years. I'm telling you, this is also a situation too where Oklahoma is going to, I don't think they have a lot of respect for South Carolina at all. And that's just my feeling. I think that Oklahoma is still in this very weird stage of beating their chest. We are so proud. Listen, they got disrespected last week by going in that Texas game as like a 14-point underdog. And you're sitting there looking at it and like, if you're Oklahoma, you're pissed because you're like, man, we've beaten these people 11 out of the past 14 times. Like, we've won however many Big 12 championships. We won 18 of the last 25 against these people. We're a 14-point underdog. It's like the fifth time in a bazillion years it's a 2-touchdown spread. They got beat 34-3. They're going through an identity crisis. Like, Oklahoma's going through an identity crisis. Make no mistake about it. They are going through an identity crisis because they came from a situation in the Big 12 where they ran everything, including with Texas being there. And they kind of thought they were going to go into this year. Who cares if we don't have Dylan Gabriel? We got Jackson Arnold, former 5-star. That's not good. You lose your entire. You have to replace your entire offensive line, guys. Here's something for you. They had to replace their entire offensive line, and now they're going to go up against the best pass rush in the country. I feel like I slurred my words when I said that. Pass rush. They're going to go against the best pass rush in the country. This could be the game that turns things for South Carolina. Like, this could be the game that like turns the corner and it's like you're an underdog. This is a game in my opinion, I think you should win. Like, I think they should win this game, which I don't think anybody on the schedule going into in the season necessarily thought that. It's a hard trip to Norman. It's a very tough environment. But this is an offense that is bad. Like, bad. But by the way, I brought up all those stats last week. Like, the 3 at the bottom in almost every single thing. Like, I kept bringing up, like, South Carolina was this bad, like 22nd, 22 out of 30 offensive categories. They're 10th or worse, whatever. The bottom 3 teams that you just saw over and over and over and over again in their names was Oklahoma, South Carolina, Kentucky. I know for a fact that one of those teams got better last week. 2 of them didn't. Oklahoma and Kentucky did not get better last week. Oklahoma and Kentucky didn't gain any confidence last week. South Carolina got better last week. South Carolina should be taking a lot more confidence into this week than they had last week. And I love it. I think it's a really, really good spot for them. A really good spot for them. So much so that I might be doing a little wagering on it this weekend. I'm not going to tell you all my bets. By the way, we won finally our best bets last week. Went 6-3 in our picks of the week, and had ourselves a banner day. And you can do the same. You can do the same with our friends at FanDuel. And you guys have heard me talk about FanDuel a whole bunch, and you're going to hear me talk about them a whole bunch more because it is something I'm passionate about, and it's also something they are passionate about, and they do a great job with it. Listen, if you're an NFL fan or a college fan, either way, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, this is the coolest part. You get a hunch in the middle of the game, right? You're sitting there watching, and you're like, you know what? I'd love to place a live bet on this. You can get up-to-the-minute stats, live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you are making your bets in the middle of a game. Do not let a hunch ever go to waste ever again with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You'll get started with a $200 bonus. That's right. All you have to do is place $5, a $5 bet. Your first $5 bet gets you a $200 bonus guaranteed. $200 in bonus bets. That's at FanDuel.com. Make sure you're going there today, and let's win ourselves some money and finish the season off the right way. That is FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, guys. We are going to close out today's show with a little bit of basketball talk. There's a lot of stuff that came out at the start of this week. We will get to it here shortly. Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, let's finish out today's episode with some basketball talk. And it's about that time. We're not that many weeks away. I think we're like 2 weeks away from the start of the basketball season. Should be a fun time. We got a bunch of good stuff coming from that. It really isn't like, listen, I hope you guys understand that this is not how it is at most places. Like, football is kind of, it's been up and down this year, but like being able to have like a men's team that was top 5 in the SEC last year and gets to the postseason, a women's team that won a national championship, and like you get to like truly cheer for something year round. That is not the case at a lot of places. And South Carolina fans, for as disenchanted and disenfranchised as you feel sometimes, this is a really cool time, I think, in sports for South Carolina. So here's the deal. Media days came out. They also had the AP poll. South Carolina not in the AP poll. Whatever. I don't think they really expected to be. They were predicted to finish 11th. This is men's, right? Listen, we'll get the women's thing out of the way first. How about this? #1 in the country, received all first place votes. Also picked to finish first in the SEC. I think behind them was Texas and then LSU. So there's that. We will get more into that on a different show because I think there's, quite frankly, as of right now, less to talk about because of how dominant they are. Now, the men's, they were predicted to finish 11th. Let me pull this up real quick. 11th in the conference. It was Bama, Auburn, Tennessee, Arkansas, and A&M, 1 through 5. And you had Florida, Texas, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Mississippi State running out the top 10. The bottom 6, this is just from the media, by the way. South Carolina, Georgia, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. Alabama picked to win it. Like I said, I think it's the first time or the third time overall they've ever been picked to win it. They were #2 in the AP poll. It's the highest they've ever been ranked. Other news of notes, Kentucky's at 23 in the AP poll, lowest preseason ranking they've had since 2008. It is a year of change. It's a year of change. I'll tell you right now who the most overrated team is right now ahead of South Carolina or in the SEC in general. It's Texas. Their basketball team always sucks, and their coach is a huge baby. Just to be frank, he got so upset about the horns down thing last year. He's in for a rude awakening this year. But they are predicted to finish 11th. Colin Murray-Broyles was Colin Murray-Broyles, yeah, he was predicted to be on 3rd team All SEC. He was the only member of the team that made the All SEC team. That's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd team. The SEC Play of the Year projection is Mark Sears. Here's your 1st team All SEC: Mark Sears from Bama, Johnny Broome from Auburn, Walter Clayton Jr. That kid's a stud from Florida, Zakai Ziegler from Tennessee, and then I didn't even know this kid had any eligibility left. But Wade Taylor IV at A&M is back for his 11th year in college. He is the Hunter Renfrow, Stetson Bennett, Cam Rising of college basketball. It is unbelievable. And then the other one I think that is more important and impressive, or not impressive, but excuse me. Probably should have muted myself or paused it. I don't know. One of these days we're going to learn how to be professional on the show. It won't be today. The Ken Palm rankings, which if you want to ask what the Ken Palm rankings are, reach out to me on social media and I will tell you to reach out to somebody else because I don't get it. I'll be honest with you. Ken Palm rankings, I just know they're important. Offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, overall efficiency. They are usually the go-to rankings for everyone. South Carolina starts the year at 65 in the country there. So the SEC was one of 3 conferences that had every single team they have in the top 100, along with the Big 10 and the Big 12 as well. So it should be a fun, competitive year in college basketball. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are as well. And that's it, guys. That is today's show. We'll be back again tomorrow. We're going to start breaking down this Oklahoma game, and I'm going to tell you for the next 3 days in a row why they are going to beat Oklahoma in Norman this weekend. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Like I told you, there's 3 games on the night. Watch some football. Have some fun. Enjoy the beautiful weather outside right now. And we'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a great day.